this is the workshop on engaging youth. So I'm glad that you were able to be here today. I know it's the last session after a very long information-filled day, so I'm sure most of us are feeling very saturated and rooms are very full. So I applaud you for sticking in there for our last session. We're hoping this one will be a very informal session and an opportunity for us to really dialogue together and to be able to build on the resources that you're going to hear about today, but to also learn about some of the work that you're doing as well. So the format this afternoon, we have two presenters who are going to share about 20 minutes each, a little more structured around what they're doing. And then we would like to invite you to ask questions both in French and English of our presenters. Celeste, who I'll give her about a minute, she's going to present in French. And Terry and Megan will be in English. We also have two youth with us today. Hannah and Kennedy are here. We've got some discussion on engaging youth. We should start modeling some of that behavior. So we have asked the youth to come today to help us to moderate this session, and they will be helping to facilitate some questions this afternoon as well of our presenters. So I guess to begin with, some quick introductions. I've already mentioned Hannah and Kennedy. They come from York Region. They're in a dual-track secondary school program with French and English, and they're both in grade 10. They are planning for 2 afternoon. But we're looking at some volunteer hours as all secondary students need to graduate, so hopefully that is a component that entices you when you're trying to engage youth, that adding that as an incentive to your program is actually quite good. And we also have 3 presenters coming today. First we have Celeste Underfolou. Did I pronounce that right? As you remember from this morning, me in French, really, it's like, me in French, well, I keep trying, I can't do it. Okay, so Celeste has been working in community development at the Community Health Center up north since it began. And you know what, I noticed on here, you work with Westminster, what's the organization's name? Westminster Community Health Center. She's been working for 35 years in the field of social work, addiction, and health. And she has championed a program with youth called Pure Powers, which is going to be fun to see about that. We also have beside her Freddie Mendes, who comes from Peterborough. And she is a consultant who is working with youth, and we've been very fortunate. I've been very fortunate to be here. We've worked together on several projects over the last few years, and Carrie is amazing working with youth, and she has been just great at being able to pull out resources and youth and to find a way to give them a voice. And she has championed several different programs, and hopefully you're talking about one in this one today, because they're all quite great. And Megan has just recently joined the Peterborough team in their youth strategy. Is that the correct title? Youth strategy? Peterborough strategy, okay. And you have just we're glad to have her with us today. And she has extensive experience working with youth in Boise Hills, like so, in order to facilitate us doing this simultaneous transition, I don't know if the rest of you have had an opportunity to actually use the headsets yet, but because we are facilitating in both languages, the headsets are available for you. You just need to plug in your headphones. There's a control mechanism and a headphone piece. You plug those together. Just turn the power on your control mechanism. Channel 1 is English, channel 2 is French, and if that's not reversed, you'll realize that when you're there, you switch to the other channel. So that should help us, and hopefully you'll be hearing both languages very fluently from both the audience and our youth and our presenters. So Celeste, I'll turn it over to you, and thank you, Ms. Celeste is going to give you the French pronunciation of your name.
Bonjour, c'est Céleste Fougy.
Yeah, real close.
Overflows, yeah, we've got verticals, it's okay. So, moi je vais parler aujourd'hui en français, et je comprends, je réalise dans mon Preventing Substance Misuse, je vais essayer de garder ça assez bref, puis assez intéressant. Moi je présente sur le pouvoir des pères, Pure Powers. C'est un programme bilingue, mon centre de santé d'Amérique du Sud-Est, c'est le centre de santé communautaire bilingue, donc notre communauté est majoritairement francophone par contre, mais on existe en bilingue. aussi, le centre de santé, c'est la jeunesse. Puis avec on a créé des programmes pour les jeunes et avec les autres services, les autres agences communautaires, on a réalisé qu'on faisait un peu d'éducation. Alors, on s'est mis ensemble, on s'est rencontrés, on a décidé de créer un programme, une collaboration avec tous les services. Et puis, le service de policier de notre communauté nous a approchés voir comment faire le partenariat, puisqu'il y a eu des fonds du ministère de la Sécurité communautaire et des services correctionnels. Donc, avec ces fonds-là, on a un petit budget de partie de notre initiative. Donc, pour les pères, c'est mené par les pères. C'est un programme qui dessert de la 5e à la 12e année. Le but, c'est de donner des informations consistantes des deux familles dans une variété de programmes. Je vais vous expliquer ça dans quelques secondes. Donc, le comité organisateur, oui, on a les services de police, le service policier de Médecine-Ouest, nous, évidemment, centre de santé communautaire, on a les conseils scolaires académiques Nord, conseil scolaire public du Nord-Est, le New York Public School Board, le bureau de santé public de North Pearson, puis le centre Alliance, qui est une agence de cancer en toxicomanie et santé mentale dans le Médecine-Ouest. On a notre formation de comité de pilotage, donc une représentation de chacune de ces agences-là, on rencontre les bases régulières. On a essayé d'impliquer les jeunes à ce point-là, aussi un comité de pilotage. Par contre, parce qu'on rencontre les gens d'école, c'est un vrai défi pour les jeunes. Et puis, au lieu de les mettre dans cette situation-là, nous, on fait les rencontres en la jour. Et puis, quand on rencontre les jeunes, on s'organise autrement pour assurer la participation. Alors, par la suite, chaque personne du comité de pilotage est responsable d'un sous-comité de travail qui implique les jeunes. Et puis, on a aussi d'autres collaborateurs communautaires au besoin. Donc, on parle de la drogue, évidemment, on a des programmes sur la drogue. On parle de toutes les sortes de drogues. C'est des présentations dans les écoles communautaires. On parle de l'alcool, des boissons énergisantes avec les jeunes. On a des PowerPoint, des présentations interactives qu'on peut vivre, qui sont déjà toutes cuites, qui sont sur des puces. Alors, les jeunes, si le jeune dit, moi, je veux faire une présentation, on peut lui donner la puce et puis ils sont à partir, ils connaissent le curriculum, ils connaissent le matériel. On parle du tabac, le tabac sans fumer, évidemment, qui est très populaire avec les jeunes. Les drogues prescrites. Donc, les activités qu'on fait, voici la liste d'activités qu'on a, d'ailleurs. Puis, chacune de ces activités est ciblée à un âge particulier. Donc, le programme DARE, il y en a beaucoup d'entreprises qui connaissent et qui est livré par les services de police, est livré à élèves de la 5e année. Chez nous, c'est la 5e année dans notre communauté. Ensuite, on a le centre qui s'appelle le saut anti-toxico. Ça, c'est créé par du personnel du bureau de santé publique du Nord-Est. C'est un saut, qui est rempli de jeux interactifs pour les jeunes de la 5e et 6e année. Tous ces jeux-là livrent un message de prévention ou d'éducation par rapport à l'alcool et la drogue. Beaucoup des activités, c'est des jeux interactifs, il y en a c'est des jeux physiques, donc on doit aller dans un gymnase, on fait des courses. Il y en a d'autres que c'est des jeux de discussion de groupe. Tous les jeux, puis j'ai pris un envolé pour me rendre parce que je voulais amener le seau avec moi, mais c'était une grosse chaudière, puis il n'y avait pas de place à mettre. J'ai comme 12 tapettes à bouche dans le seau parce que les jeux, c'est on met toutes des réponses sur un tapis, puis on pose des questions, puis tu lances la tapette à bouche, ça donne des réponses. Les jeunes aiment ça. Il y a un genre de jeu Kirkland où on donne des situations à un jeune, à la personne, puis là, les jeunes discutent de la réponse. Donc, c'est une situation, je vais vous donner un exemple. C'est un jeune qui est en bateau avec ton frère et puis ton oncle, il fait très chaud, puis ton oncle qui t'a fait une bière. Et puis, on se souvient qu'on livre le programme aux jeunes de la 7e année. 6e, 7e année. Donc, le jeune doit, ensemble, il y a une discussion de, bon, mais c'est quoi mes options? Est-ce que je fais la bière? Est-ce que je dis, ben non, je vais le jeune? Est-ce que, on discute des options qui ont, puis là, ensemble, le groupe décide c'est quoi la comme action, comment se sortir de cette situation-là. Puis s'ils décident de ne pas se sortir, bon ben là, c'est comme le jeu de prendre qui tire la tige, puis si les roches tombent, bon ben, c'est la conséquence. Parce que les jeunes savent, les jeunes nous disent, tu sais, je bois, puis il n'y a pas de risque, il n'y a pas de conséquences. Donc, les jeunes savent que dans la vie, on va prendre des risques, puis oui, on s'en sort sans faute. Mais à certains moments donnés, on prend un risque et une conséquence assez importante. C'est ça, on essaie de bâtir un peu de résilience chez les jeunes, on essaie de leur donner des outils pour faire de bons choix informés. Ça, c'est le soin anti-toxico. Le programme High on Life, je ne sais pas s'il y en a d'entre vous qui connaissez, c'est un programme de Waterloo qui, en français, ça s'appelle Wash Trip. C'est un curriculum pour les 7e, 8e années, c'est approprié aussi pour les années, qui discute des alternatives de la consommation d'alcool. Donc, l'enfance est vraiment animée sur les activités de bien-être, les alternatives au lieu de consommer. Donc, il y a 6 sessions et c'est complètement animé par les jeunes, par les étudiants. Alors, les étudiants sont formés dans le curriculum, il y a des jeux, il y a des discussions, et puis par la suite, ils se rendent dans les classes de 7e, 8e année et le programme. L'activité Weeding of Drugs, ça c'est évidemment le jeu sur le mot weed. Ça c'est une foire de station qui, c'est le bébé du centre de santé, c'est eux qui organisent ça. Cette année, on avait au-delà de, je pense, à 19 représentations de différentes agences qui livrent un message spécifique en toxicomanie, alcool, drogue. Nous, on a fait des boissons énergisantes. Il y a eu quelques stations de santé mentale. C'est pour toutes les écoles du district de Nipissing. Donc, on avait, je pense, que 1800 jeunes qui ont fait la navette entre les stations. On a 7 minutes à livrer notre message. La cloche à sonne, les étudiants doivent faire la navette. Et puis, ils finissent avec Mario Kart. Donc, c'est le message en France, c'est pour la lutte contre la drogue. Donc, les produits finis avec le jeu interactif. Ado à risque, c'est propre au Nipissing West. C'est une initiative pour les jeunes francophones. C'est Nipissing West qu'on a commencé, ça fait 2 ans. Un peu le même genre que Weeding of Drugs, sauf qu'on met beaucoup d'enfants sur la santé mentale. C'est encore des stations interactives où les jeunes de la 9e. L'année passée, on a fait la 9e année. Cette année, on a été demandé d'inclure les 10e années. So, 9e, 10e année, on se prépare, là, c'est dans 2 semaines. On a 15 stations interactives encore. Et puis, on met un petit peu plus d'enfance, comme j'ai mentionné, sur la santé mentale. Donc, il y a les troubles alimentaires, la dépression. On va faire encore les boissons énergisantes, il y a le cannabis, il y a les prescriptions, les médicaments prescrits. C'est différent. Ils ont pas aussi de la sécurité ou appui, ou de linge, tout ça. Alors, toutes les différentes agences se rencontrent, puis ado à risque, c'est complètement mené par les pairs. Alors, on va rencontrer les 15 stations dans 15 éléments assignés à la station. Les responsables de chaque sujet vont rencontrer les jeunes, en passant à travers les présentations avec eux, puis effectivement, c'est eux qui vont livrer le message à leur part pour la journée. Le mock crash, ça c'était un petit projet. Mock crash, c'est un scénario, on le fait aux 2 ans, c'est un scénario que les jeunes développent, basé sur qu'est-ce qu'eux croient que c'est important au moment. 2 ans après ça, on l'a fait sur le cannabis au volant. Au mois de mai dernier, on l'a fait sur les comportements de skate. Les élèves ont choisi 2 situations effectivement qu'on a essayé d'intégrer dans une vignette. Un, c'était les comportements de skate, donc des jeunes qui consomment de l'alcool à l'intendance d'école et puis qui des élèves tombent en bas du comptoir, à danser sur le comptoir, puis à tomber, puis à donner une fracture au crâne. L'autre, c'est des jeunes, c'est de marcher, penser qu'ils prennent des bons choix, marcher à la maison après la fête et sans demander de l'aide, puis ils se font frapper parce qu'ils sont sur un chien n'est pas éclairé, puis il est en reçoit. Donc, les jeunes ont développé le scénario ensemble, on l'a développé ensemble. C'est eux qui ont fait ils ont été les acteurs, c'est les jeunes qui ont filmé. Ensuite, on a recréé la scène, on a filmé au mois de mars, puis au mois de mai, on a recréé la scène vive pour tous les étudiants de la 11e et 12e année. Ils choisissent une date très spécifique, c'est toujours le jeudi avant le long week-end du mois de mai, parce que le long week-end du mois de mai semble suivi le début des fêtes pour les finissants. C'est là où les fêtes commencent en grande. Alors, c'est toujours ce jeudi-là. Tous les élèves sont recueillis dans un centre de récréatif. On visionne le film qu'ils ont créé. Ensuite, les élèves se rendent à l'extérieur pour voir la scène de l'accident. Et puis, ils vivent à Vaudeville les policiers, les pompiers, les ambulanciers, le service mortuaire qui vient chercher la personne décédée. Ensuite, on les ramène en temps, puis on fait un genre de débriefing avec les élèves. Donc, c'est vraiment interactif. C'est eux qui choisissent le sujet. C'est eux qui animent la discussion par la suite. Ça a un impact assez important. Puis la campagne de médias sociaux, j'en ai amené des exemples, mais je vais peut-être si ça vous intéresse. C'est les jeunes qui ont décidé, il y avait deux sujets qu'ils ont voulu aborder. Un, c'est nos parents n'ont aucune idée qu'est-ce qu'on fait. Et puis l'autre, c'est les minors, les jeunes de la 9e année. Alors, les jeunes disaient, on a des messages qu'on veut dire aux jeunes qui entrent au secondaire qui sont vraiment importants. Alors, ils ont fait une campagne de posters qu'on a mis sur Facebook. On a eu la permission de la municipalité de mettre dans chacune des salles de bain communautaires. Donc, à l'aréna, au centre récréatif, on a des petits fans aux salles de bain, puis on change les affiches de temps en temps. Puis là, justement, le groupe qui travaille sur la campagne médias sociales se prépare à faire une autre campagne qui s'appelle Do You Know What's in Your Drink? Est-ce que tu sais qu'est-ce que tu as dans ton verre? Pour regarder le niveau toxicomanie. Si tu prends les deux verres rouges, est-ce que vous êtes vraiment cool? Qu'est-ce que vous consommez quand vous utilisez ça? Est-ce que vous savez qu'est-ce que vous consommez? C'est des sujets qu'on va. Donc, ça, c'est juste des petites photos, puis les jeunes en particulier, il y en a qui ont aussi des consentements. Mais quand on a lancé l'invitation aux jeunes de créer le pouvoir des pères, aux 3 écoles secondaires, on a eu 79 jeunes qui se sont présentés. Beaucoup d'eux, c'était comme vieille, je peux manquer l'école. Puis c'est ça, on a passé la journée avec eux à passer à travers les différents sujets, comme j'ai fait avec vous. On les a laissés goûter aux différents programmes qu'on pense à offrir. Puis c'est eux qui pouvaient décider, ah oui, ça me touche, ça m'intéresse, non, pas ça. Alors les jeunes ont pu essayer toutes les choses. Donc on voit les jeunes, ils font différents ateliers. Ensuite, on a juste mis les affiches chez eux, puis les gens peuvent aller mettre leur nom au sujet qui les intéresse. Des activités d'équipe. Ça, c'était un chandail. On disait, OK, c'est le premier enfilé chandail, non, mais ça a l'air bien simple. Sauf que le chandail avait été congelé. Il fallait qu'il dégèle. Ils ont travaillé bien fort. Et les filles ont gagné. Parce que les autres sont assis dessus. Notre mock crash, on a engagé des services ambulanciers qui ont été capables de faire le maquillage pour que ce soit réel avec les jeunes. Alors, on a demandé, ça c'est les 6h30 du matin dans ce moment-là. Pour engager nos jeunes, ça prend des beignes, de la pizza. Puis, c'est ça, actuellement, on peut les avoir, on peut les garder autour, on va payer nos billes. Donc, vous pouvez voir, puis il était intéressé. Il y avait des élèves qui se sont présentés juste parce qu'ils voulaient connaître comment faire le maquillage. Alors, ils se sont pour aider au service d'ambulance. Donc, on voit qu'ils ont fait une bonne job. Puis, on va aussi demander aux jeunes, tu sais, le One Crash, ils ont du plaisir à filmer ça. Par contre, le message est très, très, très sérieux. On les a demandé de respecter ça, de respecter l'activité, pas le mettre sur Facebook, pas le mettre sur YouTube. C'est pas quelque chose pour nous divertir. C'était vraiment un message. Puis, les gens ont vraiment respecté ça. Par la suite, nous autres, on fait des copies de l'activité pour en remettre à chacune des écoles. C'est une des seule activité qui réussit à engager les parents parce que les parents sont curieux à voir leurs enfants. Mon jeune a été dans, tu sais, on dit, oh maman, le maquillage était vraiment dégueulasse. Alors, ils vont se présenter quand on dit on fait une soirée éducative pour les parents, et voir qu'est-ce que votre enfant fait. Actuellement, on vient de rentrer la salle. Je voulais amener un clip du mock crash, on peut voir juste une photo, les jeunes ont fait vraiment du beau travail. C'est tous des élèves bénévoles, il n'y a pas d'acteurs professionnels là-dedans, mais ils ont bien réussi à passer le message. Donc ça, c'est les résultats. Évidemment, la façon qu'on veut engager nos jeunes, comme Patricia a mentionné, les heures bénévoles, c'est très important. On les rencontre sur l'heure du dîner pour pas qu'ils manquent trop d'école. Alors, nous, on se rend à eux, au lieu de les faire venir à l'expérience. Puis parce que les deux écoles secondaires sont sur la même rue, c'est une marche d'à peu près 5 minutes, on alterne une journée, une rencontre là, comme ça, le déplacement est minimisé. Des lettres de recommandation. Nos jeunes ont travaillé sur le mock crash, ont tous reçu une lettre de recommandation. Puis pour un élève qui commence, qui n'a peut-être pas un CV d'une page, ça peut être assez important. Vous étiez consacré une vingtaine d'heures, collaborer, contribuer, ça a un impact pour eux. C'est à peu près ça, je pense, ma présentation. En tout cas, je pense, comme je dis. Puis, qu'est-ce qu'on a essayé de faire aussi, un autre point que je voulais soulever, c'est quand on a engagé nos jeunes, on a demandé des jeunes de la 9e à la 12e pour pouvoir établir une continuité. Alors, nos jeunes de la 12e, on était chanceux, on avait chacun des écoles secondaires ont des programmes cohortes, on allait chercher en milieu, qui ont été capables de décrocher des placements cohortes. Pour nous appuyer. Il y a des défis particuliers associés avec ça, parce que ça prend une personne, un superviseur qui est capable d'appuyer les jeunes. Et quand vous avez ça, c'est fantastique. Nous autres, c'est Nazia, une de nos élèves, elle s'est formée dans le programme Highline. Moi, je tripe, elle a été capable de l'ouvrir dans les écoles francophones, anglophones. Elle a fait, en fait, par la suite, j'ai été capable d'embaucher comme étudiante d'été à notre centre parce qu'elle avait déjà été formée. Donc, tu sais, elle était capable de se bâtir une expérience de travail qui va lui donner quelque chose de formation continue. Ça fonctionne bien pour nous. Ça, c'est à peu près ça. Bon, c'est tout.
Thank you, Celeste. And now, Carrie and Megan, I know you have a PowerPoint. So we're going to see if we can make sure.
Je vais pas circuler? Oui.
For the sake of the interpreter, having both mics, it's easier, they're mic'd rather than us just yelling, so that's why we're doing the second one. Okay, thank you.
Hi, I'm Karen Keightley. I'm the manager of the Peterborough Drug Strategy. And this is my colleague Megan LaPlante, who is the youth engagement coordinator with the Peterborough Drug Strategy. When Patricia first emailed us and asked us if we would talk about what we were doing with youth engagement, I have to say that I paused for a second and thought, I don't know how good we are at youth engagement, because we're always measuring what we do against Roger Hart's ladder of engagement, and we're always aiming for like 100% youth engagement stuff, but I always feel like we land somewhere in the middle where it's a little bit of adult-directed youth messaging, and we're trying our best, but I catch my conservative adults jumping in to manage some of the risk and to temper some of the messages and that kind of thing. So we're always challenging ourselves, and hiring Megan has been really good for us because she questions me a lot and says, well, you know, is that a risk, and should we do that, and what about what the youth have to say, and shouldn't we have youth on these committees to help develop our projects? So it's been a really interesting process in the last 5 years, and I'd like to talk a little bit about who we are and how we got to what we're doing, and kind of the philosophy that underlies some of the work that we're doing. I don't know how to make this go forward. Okay. So the Peterborough Drug Strategy in general is a collaborative initiative of community individuals and agencies and organizations and different stakeholders who are working together to reduce some of the harms associated with substance use. And we started off in response to the OxyContin crisis that kind of filtered to the surface in 2008 in our community. And it was the first time that we were all openly talking about substance use across sectors. And it really did start to help us to question why we were working in silos instead of working collaboratively on some of the stuff that we were trying to change or trying to influence in Peterborough. And so the Peterborough Drug Strategies Task Force started, and it started under the philosophy of the four-pillar arrangement. And that's kind of a renowned evidence-based strategy for addressing substance use in the community. And the four pillars are harm reduction, prevention, treatment, and enforcement. And essentially, I won't go into all the research and philosophy behind that, but essentially what it does is it allows all the main stakeholders to come together and talk at the same table and learn a little bit about one another and some of the drivers behind our organizations and some of the mandates that push us forward, and then try and move those mandates a little bit closer so that we can be talking about the same things and working on the same things. And what it has allowed us to do is really promote some intersectoral collaboration as well as reduce some of the duplication that naturally happens in a community. And what we try to do is balance that law and order piece with health and individuality and some of the background and root causes behind substance use. And I feel like we're always learning every time we get to a nice little spot and we think we're doing really great work. We then remember that we still have some work to do around language or around accessibility or around inclusivity. So it's been a really interesting process, and we have these fabulous partners who have kind of pioneered this and pushed it forward. So those are our partners representing the four pillars. And what we do together, this is our advisory team right now, and what this advisory team represents is a network of more than 35 agencies in Peterborough. So some of the work that we do draws in different partners, and what we really hope to do is inform all of our partners about the work that's happening and invite them to participate. When the Peterborough Drug Strategy first started, we started with a small project on youth and opiates. And what we were able to do is to connect with young people in the community and start to find out how they're being affected by the opiate-specific issue. And what we found was it wasn't just opiates, right? I'm sure everybody in this room can talk about the number of substances that affect youth in your community or that youth are experimenting with or using or curious about. And it wasn't just those opiates. So when the drug strategy as a whole started to look at the bigger picture, we acknowledged that we really had to engage with youth and ask youth about the issues that affect them most. So we received some funding to develop a strategic plan for the drug strategy, and part of that funding included hiring someone to do a youth consultation. Now, there's about 100,000 people in Peterborough City and County, so the city proper and the county, the 8 townships that surrounded the city. And when we hired Jen Knight, who's a grad of the International Development Program at Trent University, we said to her, you know, you have 8 weeks. We'd like you to meet with at least 75 young people in Peterborough because we want to hear what they have to say about substance use. And we'd like you to meet with some people in the county and some in the city and some who are affected by substance use and some who aren't using substances, and just try and get as wide of a group as possible. Jen was able to meet with more than 500 young people in our area. She was phenomenal, and she did a really great job and produced a youth report that's on our website at peterboroughdrugstrategy.com. And essentially what we found was, or what we asked youth were, you know, what are the main issues in substance use in our community? What do you see? Why and when and what reasons do youth have for starting to use substances? What
what can be done about substance use, what needs to change in order for us to make a difference, or in order for us to be able to propel youth towards health. And she, as I said, she wrote a report and made 25 recommendations for action. And Megan and I just read them the other day for the first time in probably more than a year, I'm ashamed to say. And we are working on a lot of those recommendations for action. And I'd like to share a few of those initiatives with you to just talk about how we continue to struggle with that tension of recognizing and doing some research as to what needs to change and what kind of pathways we can take to change, and then struggling with that tension of how do we engage youth in a meaningful way, and how do we stop interrupting with our adult sensibilities, right? And I think that I discover about myself that I'm old all the time, right? I like to think of myself as young. I work hard at being young, but as I approach 40, I realize that, I've discovered that the volume button on the stereo turns to the left, and I've discovered that you should think before you jump, and I've discovered all these things about myself that I've forgotten that I used to look at 40-year-olds from my 16-year-old vantage point and thought that was near dead, right? So it's really astonishing to discover about yourself that you're not young and hip. But what I think that we can do as adults is discover that about ourselves and be okay with it, and make sure that we're connecting with young people to bounce our ideas off of and start to think about how our influence or our conservatism is being received by their communities.
Do you want to talk about these? So just before we talk about strengthening families, I saw a lot of pens go to paper when Carrie mentioned the youth report. So if you do go to our site, it's under the publications tab, just to make it a bit easier. So strengthening families is the Parent Action on Drugs program, and the Peterborough Drug Strategy has decided we've received funding through our police partners to run the program in Peterborough. So the program takes a whole family approach, and what we mean by that is that the parents and youth are involved in the program, and we do have space for younger siblings as well. So the program is a 9-week interactive program, and it's geared for families that have youth in ages 12 to 16 years old. And it's designed to improve the child-parent relationship, provide families with improved resiliency, communication, problem-solving skills, and just try and create those common grounds for understanding. So in each session, there's a nice family dinner, and the younger siblings in the family are invited to partake in that as well. And after dinner, the parents and youth split off and go to different spaces where they talk about the same topics. So some of the topics, for example, is problem solving, substance use, stress management, different topics that would affect family culture. So they talk about the same topic, but obviously in different ways. So there's a more parent-friendly version and a youth-friendly version. And during this time, we have childcare on site as well. So the drug strategy has been fortunate enough to lock in funds to run the program in 6 different locations in the city and the county, which is great. So we're starting that in the next couple weeks.
One of the cool things about the Strengthening Families program, and we do credit Parent Action on Drugs for the work that they did to translate the program from a 14-week program that was originally developed for young children aged 8 to 12 to a more teen-friendly, shorter iteration of the program. One of the things we like about it is that it makes sense, and it makes sense across all 4 of our pillars. So I didn't have a hard time convincing my police partners to apply for proceeds of crime dollars to run this program because it makes sense. They're investing in crime prevention because investing in families and resiliency and those communication skills really does go a long way towards crime prevention. And we get really excited about working with families, right? Because the first couple of weeks of Strengthening Families, you have the teens in the group kind of coming in with their hair over their face and their ball caps on, and they're like, look at what my parents have dragged me to now, like, it's terrible, right? But by week 3, the teens totally get that the way that this program was created was for them, right? And they're engaged in the interactive activities, and they're really pretty jazzed about being there, and even okay with eating dinner with their families, right? So it's this really kind of neat thing to watch and to see the culture shift. And the 2 pilots that we ran in Peterborough last year, at the end of the program, both parents and the teens were saying, I wish this was longer, I wish we could continue doing this. So it's really going quite a ways to make connections between families and also to develop some skills along the way.
So Pot Talks is another piece to our youth engagement work. I'll actually have Carrie speak to the marijuana better than tobacco in the public forum section.
Megan has just started with us, so some of the things that we've done in the past have been tricky, and I can hear her cringing behind me. So Pot Talks came from our youth consultation, and one of the things that young people said is they wanted to talk about marijuana, and they wanted to talk about why it was illegal, and like marijuana is better than tobacco, marijuana is better than alcohol, and there was a lot of conversation with young people about pot when we were doing our consultation. And so what we committed to do is to run a series called Pot Talks about marijuana and trying to open the conversation a bit. But what we found was that all of us health promoter types are really comfortable talking about lung health and really comfortable talking about the risks of substance use, but we're not so comfortable talking about what's okay about substance use and drug policy. And so it's been really challenging to connect with young people and ask them what they think and present material that makes sense to them when we're so hesitant to suggest that marijuana use might be okay, right? Like we always walk that fine line between promoting drug use or just giving some good answers. I'm just being honest because I think you all probably do youth engagement and have these same struggles. So one of the things that we're doing with Pot Talks is we started off talking about marijuana better than tobacco because that was one of the big concerns, and we had this great respirologist, Dr. Glashard, come and speak to youth, and he was surprisingly engaging, and he was really honest about what the research said, and we had a few parents angry with us because we didn't say that pot was going to kill you, but we did start some really interesting conversation about the kind of considerations you should take when you're looking at substance use and using marijuana. So it was really interesting. We've had a few public forums that have been equal parts interesting and equal parts I want to forget them for the rest of my life because they were painfully not youth engagement. But what we're trying to do is figure that out. And what's great about our partners is they've been willing to let us figure it out together. Do you want to talk about that?
Sure. So the Drug Strategy has also received some funding to do a youth filmmaking project, which we're really excited about. And so we've consulted with some youth, and we have a committee with some other partners in Peterborough that run a film festival. We plan to hire some film directors, and we've narrowed down the topic to debunking marijuana myths. So we're going to run a program in the form of a March break camp, and it should be really neat because it'll give youth the opportunity to gain some of those skills that come along with filmmaking, and we're really hoping to provide them with tangible skills and ways that they could maybe use their iPhones or use simple digital cameras so that it's not beyond their reach when we're not around and don't have the tools there for them, so they could potentially use these skills to do something on their own. And we've just found that there's so many different myths around marijuana use, and it'll be neat to bring a youth lens to that. And we plan to have some shorter clips that could be used on social media or a variety of different sources, and then we're hoping to do kind of a big film showing. Peterborough has a film festival, so hopefully we can have some of these films tie into that really nicely. So the Challenges, Beliefs, and Changes program is also a Parent Action on Drugs program that the Drug Strategy has been doing for about 4 years now. So part of the consultation that Carrie had referred to, one of the recommendations was that youth don't really enjoy having teachers and police officers and people in businesses standing up in front of them and saying, don't do drugs, drugs are bad. So they would rather have that peer-to-peer messaging piece. So Challenges, Beliefs, and Change provide that piece for us. So what the program does is we train high school leaders to go out into grade 8 feeder schools, and they do a really fun interactive session with them. So it touches on substance use, it touches on some of the realities of entering high school, kind of what a grade 9 party might look like, and hopefully provides them with some nice decision-making skills that they can use when they find themselves in those scenarios. And it also provides a connection to a high school student that they might see in the hallways for the next year, and just a familiar face for them. So we regularly try to consult with the high school students who are part of the program to try and localize the training and localize the issues and make them Peterborough specific. So for example, we do run one program in a county school, and we might talk a little bit about field parties or getting home from a local location versus in the Peterborough schools we might talk a bit more about public transit or taxis, and just making sure that all the information is applicable to wherever the schools are and some of the scenarios that the youth in that area might find themselves in.
One of the cool things about CBC is Patricia has come and done some training for us for the first 3 years of the program. And then last year when we evaluated with the student leaders what they liked about the program and what they wanted different, they really loved the training they got, but they wanted to be involved in the creation of the training. So this year we were able to hire Megan, and in consultation with some of the youth, we designed training that looks, to be honest, looks a lot like the training that Patricia has delivered for us in years past, but just has a different lens and is using the returning leaders to do some of the leadership themselves, and just making sure that we make those local connections and are having local conversations. So it's been a really interesting project. I got to tell you that our funders and our community partners love this project because they're getting out to all the grade 8 students in our area, almost all the grade 8 students in our area. We have 3 high schools engaged with this program, and we're hoping to add 2 more in the next year or so. So it's been really fantastic to get out to the grade 8 students.
So Life Unleashed, again, follows the peer-to-peer messaging recommendation that was made in that youth consultation. So it's a skill-building program, and it's designed to help youth who have been affected by substance use in almost any way tell their story about use. So we started out with 12 speakers last year and had 5 of them complete the program, and that was our pilot session, and we have funding to run the program for another 2 years. And we just started it this year, and we have 16 youth who are really excited to get started. And it just provides them with those skills. Some of the youth from last year reported that they had a sense of self-confidence afterwards and felt that their story was really valuable and that it could be used to influence change in the community. And then the idea behind the project would be to have these youth members be able to go into high schools or present in front of service providers and provide their story and provide some expertise in that lens, depending on what they're speaking about. So we have a variety of stories and speakers in the group. Some haven't engaged in substance use themselves, but are able to speak to how their parents' use has affected them or how their friends' use has affected them. So it's really nice to see a balance in stories. And we meet twice a month, with them, and we do a nice dinner beforehand, and then there's a curriculum that we recently created over the summer that we follow to try and help them gain some of the skills that they would need to be able to answer questions at the end of the talk, and nuts and bolts public speaking stuff, informing their story and being able to change it depending on the audience and stuff like that.
So that's a small picture of what we do. Some of the things that we're really pleased about that have happened because of the youth engagement work that we're doing is that our partnering agencies come to us and say, hey, we really want to do this youth project on internet crime. What can we do differently? How can we better engage youth? And so we've started this kind of community conversation around engaging youth and community conversation around how do we better train youth workers to invest in strength-based programming or resiliency or understand youth engagement in a meaningful way. So it's been an interesting process, and we've been really lucky to be able to be part of the local conversation that's really pushing forward, I think, a philosophical way to work with young people and to engage young people.
So we brought business cards, and over here to the left we just have a little piece of paper that talk a little bit about some of the other things that are happening at the Peter Project Strategy. So feel free to grab one of those if you'd like.
Thank you very much, Carrie and Megan, and also Celeste. Thank you again. We are just going to take a little 30-second reconfiguring of the table tops up here. We're going to invite Hannah
and Kennedy come up, and they have been madly writing down some points while they were hearing the presentation, and we are going to invite them to join the conversation and to ask some questions of our team today. So girls, if you want to come and head out, you'll either have to take one large step or go to the end and use stairs. Okay. All right, there you go. Okay. So, actually,
I can just sit.
oh, I thought we had a fifth chair up here already. Wasn't there? Okay, there you go. All right, and we'll use the microphone again, just for the sake of the interpretation, if it's mic'd.
Okay, thank you. So you
Told us about your motivation for starting your companies, but we were wondering what your objectives were and how you decided which specific programs you wanted to work with. So, like, what your drive was behind choosing those specific companies to work with.
Avec nous, définitivement, le but, c'est de réduire la consommation. C'est toujours nos objectifs. C'est de bâtir les atouts chez les jeunes, augmenter la résilience, informer les parents. L'impact des coûts, évidemment, avec les services policiers, il y a moins de crimes, moins de charges, moins de coûts, des coûts sociaux associés avec la consommation. Donc, la réussite scolaire, l'engagement chez les jeunes dans la communauté, c'est tous des bienfaits que les programmes, on espère les programmes vont avoir avec les jeunes. C'est ça, définitivement, notre motivation pour initier ces programmes-là, puis essayer de continuer pour une période de 5 ans pour pouvoir étendre en moyen de mesurer les effets.
I think, our motivation is similar in that we want to reduce the negative impacts of substance use, but I think the reason why we chose the things we did are directly related to the consultation we did. Any of the work we do with the adult population, it really is a direct reflection of what the consultation told us. And the way that we did our consultation was through surveys and focus groups, and then we spent a lot of time with the evidence, looking at research and matching research to some of the feedback that we got, and moving forward from an evidence-informed model in the sense that we don't want to just run off and do something because it sounds like a good idea. We want to invest where it makes sense and where we'll get outcomes. So when Megan and I read the youth report the other day for the first time in a while, we were like, oh, right, we're doing that, good for us, pat, 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 right? And wait, we're not doing this. And so it's what we hope will continue to push us forward and motivate us to choose very specific things in the next 3 to 5 years, and we hope to be able to continue to check back in with the community and check back in with the research on an ongoing basis to make sure that we're pointed in the right direction.
Et comment est-ce que vous avez engagé les partenaires potentiels de votre communauté?
Les partenaires potentiels comme les agences ou les jeunes?
Comme les agences.
Les agences. On a réalisé qu'on travaillait en silo, comme plusieurs d'entre nous ont fait. Alors, on a fait une rencontre d'information, une session d'information. On a invité les directeurs d'éducation, donc on a commencé en haut, les directeurs et les directions dans les écoles, les orienteurs, les enseignants en éducation physique, les profs de droit, tout le monde tous les enseignants qui étaient dans une position peut-être d'être un de nos champions, le service policier, les agences qui donnent les services en toxicomanie ou les agences sociales, le bureau de santé. Donc, tous les gens qui avaient un but commun, qui pourraient être des partenaires. Ensemble, on a réalisé, oui, on a tous le même but, on a tous peut-être une différente approche, mais on a la même clientèle en but. Donc, c'est pour ça qu'on a dit, bien, écoute, on va investir nos efforts dans un but commun. Il y a des gens qui ont des expertises particulières, donc tout le monde avait un morceau très important à porter à la table pour les deux puis les jeunes, pour aller chercher nos jeunes, quand on a demandé, on veut savoir qu'est-ce que vous autres vous voulez. On veut parler on veut faire de l'éducation, on veut faire de la prévention par rapport à l'alcool et les drogues. Qu'est-ce que vous aimeriez? De quelle façon est-ce qu'on peut livrer ces projets-là? Puis c'est eux qui nous ont dit. C'est vraiment eux qui ont dit oui, ça fait sens. Souvent, ils nous disaient c'est pas mal, c'est pas mal, ça se passe, faut oublier ça. Donc, souvent, on pense qu'on est cool, qu'on monte de la bonne femme, ça marche pas encore. C'est important d'avoir la voix de nos jeunes, c'est même qu'on était capable, qu'on était un certain montant de succès.
I think the partnership building is always the tricky part, right? Because there are many partners who are interested in doing this kind of collaborative work that have different mandates and who have different end goals that they're looking for. So one of the key things for us was just about relationship building and just about trying to work from a transparent, upfront way or standpoint. And the way we started at the beginning was very slow with a small project that was very focused on opiates. And that allowed us to feel out working together and allowed us some quick win projects to really figure out how this collaborative works and how what pieces each one of the agencies and each one of the partners can contribute. And one of the things, I worked with a woman from the Peterborough County City Health Unit, Suzanne Galloway, who was adamant that we couldn't just develop strategic plans and policies, we had to have quick wins along the way. And so we did small projects that were quick wins that made partners really showcased the work that some of our partners were doing in the community and took very little effort in terms of paid staff time. And it kind of that building a strategic plan alongside of some really cool quick win projects really helped us to learn how to work together and learn how to make our silos come a little bit closer. And I think that's how we engage partners, and that's what we continue to do along the way, is find ways for our partners to contribute to the different things that we're doing and find ways for people to benefit from our collaborative work and really make it tangible. So, our youth speakers, that youth speakers program that Megan spoke about, Life Unleashed, is a really good example. They're fantastic, and they're kind of being funded by 10 different places right now. And they spoke at our treatment providers AGM last summer. And the staff and the board members and the people at that AGM meeting were like, that was the best AGM we've ever been to. And these two, 20-year-old youth speakers spoke there, and they really didn't have anything to say other than their pretty fantastic stories. And what that did was it really showed people in the room how this collaborative is working. And the speakers spoke about how they got help from police services and how they got help from treatment, and Elizabeth Fry and John Howard Society. They really did speak about how this collaborative community, like milieu of partners, has contributed to their health, contributed to their change. And so I think that we work really hard to get small projects happening, but we also really work hard to point to how our partners are contributing, and that has really helped to cement the relationships.
Okay, so given that the youth population is constantly changing and that things are going in and out of style and in and out of fashion, how do you both keep your programming current and how do you keep it relevant so that it's current with the youth groups that you're working with over time?
We kind of touched on this a little bit in the presentation, but with so at CBC, for example, we're consistently meeting with youth at the beginning of the project, midway through, at the end, and just kind of talking to them about what's going on in their high school and how the programming could be changed to better reflect what's going on. We try our best to meet with students in all the different high schools because we recognize that the current issues are going to be different depending on where these youth are and what's going on. With the Youth Speakers program, again, we try and invite opinion whenever possible, and we have a core group of youth who have gone through the program once before through a year. So it's always nice to meet with them. We've met with them a couple times before the second year started and kind of just to get their opinion and talk to them about what's going on in their life and how the program should maybe change and better reflect what's happening for them. So I think that's the biggest thing. One other thing that we try to do is on some of the planning committee. So for example, the youth filmmaking project, we have a group of about 5 different people from different organizations who are influencing that work. But we try really hard to ensure that there is a member of the youth population there to provide a bit of opinion and insight on how that project plays out. So I think the most important part is just checking in with the groups that we work with and seeing what's going on.
One of the things that I've done along the way, because recognizing that I think things are cool and 12-year-olds don't, is to give young people the opportunity to call in on whatever we're doing. And I say that to Megan all the time, and I say that to any of the youth we work with. You get to call lame whenever you want. So when I pitch an idea, or I say something about drugs, or I do something dorky, you get to say, Carrie, that's lame. And we had this really fantastic young man working on our steering committee when we were developing the strategic plan. And he told me I was lame almost daily. Every time I met a kid, he told me I was lame. But he wasn't just saying, you're lame, and then walking away as an insult. He was saying, that's lame, and then we would have a conversation about why that was lame, and why it wasn't youth engagement, and why. And I mean, he was fantastic. And his voice is heard throughout our documents. But I think that's, as adults, we have to give young people that opportunity, right? To say, okay, that doesn't work, and then work with them to change it.
Ouais, pour nous, notre programme, il y a juste un an. C'est notre première année, donc c'est une bonne question parce que ça va être un défi à garder à l'intérêt et à pouvoir continuer le travail. C'est pour ça qu'on essaie d'avoir des jeunes de différentes âges pour pouvoir maintenir. La question de si ça nous touche pas, c'est très important. On voulait avoir des jeunes qui participent au projet. On disait des jeunes qui avaient de l'expérience. Donc, on ne voulait pas en faire, parce que quand on demande l'aide, souvent, aux écoles secondaires, c'est ceux qui font tout, qui ont des A+, qui sont impliqués dans tout, puis c'est les autres qui vont s'offrir pour travailler. Oui, on voulait la participation et l'implication, mais on voulait avoir aussi les jeunes qui étaient en arrière de l'école en train de trouver du sport. Puis on était capable en disant, leur motivation, c'était la danse, c'était un choix personnel. Je pense qu'on a réussi d'avoir une participation assez intéressante, puis de voir des jeunes qui étaient peut-être un peu décrocheurs, des jeunes à risque, travailler côte à côte avec les policiers pour livrer un programme, c'est vraiment impressionnant. Ça bâtit des relations qui se continuent encore aujourd'hui. Donc, je pense que ça, c'est important. On va continuer à semer ça, puis essayer de récolter ces lieux-là entre les agences de jeunes.
Et c'était quoi la réaction du communauté après savoir comment ce programme fonctionne, qu'est-ce qui s'est passé pendant? Est-ce que tu étais vraiment content avec le programme ou...
Pour nous, on a demandé à nos jeunes de faire une présentation au conseil municipal, puis on est quand même une petite région rurale, on est 10 000 populations. 13 000 incluant les petits villages. Alors, quand les jeunes ont fait une présentation au conseil, ça a engagé les jeunes de partout, les conseillers, la maman. Donc, la réaction était très positive. La collaboration, puis ils se sont embarqués dans le projet aussi. Alors, quand on a appelé les services de pompiers, ils disaient, écoute, on fait le démarrage, est-ce qu'on peut avoir le Jaws of Life, est-ce qu'on peut avoir le service? Oui, ils se sont libérés. Le service d'ambulance, on a juste 2 ambulances en ville, donc quand on en laisse à une, ça met la communauté à risque. Ils se sont préparés pour nous offrir, faire certains qu'il y avait. Effectivement, c'était un ambulancier qui était c'était sa journée de congé pour nous aider avec le projet. Donc, on a eu une bon feedback, bonne réception. Les parents voient les bienfaits. Notre défi, ça va être de continuer. Ça va être de s'assurer que ça peut continuer pour les années à venir, que les jeunes de la 9e année, rendus à la 12e année, vont être les pères experts pour les jeunes générations.
So I'll add a small piece to this and then Carrie take over on that. So our communities reacted really positively. Again, I'm fairly new, so I haven't been able to see the full extent of that, but some of our police partners, for example, comment on the Challenges, Beliefs and Change program. One of them is a community officer, and he felt that prior to the program, he was responding to a lot of issues at the schools around sexting or alcohol use at the school dances and things like that. And not that we can take all of the credit for the change, but he does think that by engaging the grade 8 students and providing them with decision-making skills and some realistic information about substance use in high school, the calls that he's had around alcohol or substance use at dances and sexting and things like that have gone down. So that's, I guess, one positive reaction. And the Life Unleashed program, at the end of last year, there was an evaluation done, and the youth who did complete the whole program felt that it provided them with a lot of self-confidence and gave them a lot of tangible skills that they wouldn't otherwise have if they could use in settings like job interviews or different public speaking opportunities. And they felt that their story was worthwhile and did offer some kind of expertise that maybe they didn't see it that way before.
Okay, just a few more questions. So, qu'est-ce qui vous a posé des problèmes avec les adolescents, ou même s'il y a eu des problèmes, qu'est-ce qui était quelque chose qui était un défi en travaillant avec les adolescents? Parce que moi, je sais que ça peut être difficile à temps. Alors, est-ce qu'il y a eu des problèmes quand même avec les ados?
Nos défis. Ils ont toujours faim. Il y a toujours des milieux. Ils oublient aussi. Alors, nous rencontres, on textait. On va tout texter, donc j'avais les employés dire, OK, on appelle à toute la gang, on envoyait des masses textés où on mettait sur Facebook. N'oubliez pas la gang du social media ou la gang du Mont Crush, on se rencontre dans un demi. Donc ça, c'était peut-être une fois les jeunes sont engagés. Leur temps est très précieux aussi. On oublie ça, on pense que c'est des jeunes qui sont à notre merci, mais c'est pas le cas, ils travaillent, ils jouent du sport, incapables de trouver un temps pour faire les projets avec eux qui allaient avec qui accommodaient tout le monde, c'était un peu un défi. Alors on faisait beaucoup de choses les samedis, pendant les heures de lunch, donc une période de demi-heure à livrer un programme ou à faire une rencontre, à faire avancer des choses, donc c'est ça le petit défi, mais ça fonctionne assez bien.
It's hard when it's two presenters. I think some of the challenges are both parts, right? I think largely they've all been overcome by different styles of communication and understanding that about one another. One of the challenges with our youth speakers program is that throughout the summer, Megan and I, together with a whole team of people, developed curriculum and made some changes to the program and consulted with the youth, and we think we're being really open and transparent. And then when we meet with the young people in September, they say to us, "What? You're doing what?" And so I think that we are always conscious about thinking that we're communicating really well and thinking that we're engaging youth in a meaningful way, and then the mirror is shown back to us, and we're reminded that we're not always speaking the same language, right? So those are the key challenges for us, is just to make sure that we're really communicating well and really understanding one another, and slowing down enough to take the time to ask and really understand where the youth are at and what they think.
Do you want to say something? So what Carrie was talking earlier about the link factor, that only works if there's a pre-established relationship with the youth to an extent. They need to feel comfortable around whoever they're with. So with some of the changes in staffing and stuff like that, it has taken a bit of time to develop relationships with the youth. And when Carrie's referring to some of the policy changes and things like that, it's just important that they have that relationship in order to say to Carrie, this isn't working or this isn't that great. So that can be a challenge initially.
Okay, well, of course in all programs there are some difficulties, but that must also mean that there were some success stories. So what did you find that was really successful in the program?
Sure. I love our programs. I love the youth speakers panel specifically that we work with. They're all pretty fantastic young people, and I think what's successful is when you watch a group of young people learn a whole bunch of skills and become confident and share their experiences with a whole crowd of people and do so confidently. Like, those are the successes for me, watching not just my agenda being moved forward, but watching the young people develop and move towards something different. Whether that be just because they have new skills or they're made different decisions or they're embarking on a new path or something like that. I think those are the exciting pieces. When we look at programs like CBC or Strengthening Families, it's really always great to get feedback from young people and families about how the experience has affected them. So our youth leaders in CBC tell stories about how this helps them to write something for a university application or speak during a job interview or be able to contribute directly related to the skills they're learning in the program. So that kind of stuff excites me. I love data, so when the evaluations come back and grade 8 students say that they liked the program and they're making different decisions because of something they heard or something like that, that's like the geek in me is like, ooh, right? The stats are telling us that this works. So like those are the successes, but I think the big successes for us are seeing those relationships develop and seeing some of the changes that happen and watching youth be able to reflect on how their experience is affecting how they move forward.
C'est ça. Pas mal la même chose. C'est juste les liens qu'il y a ici entre les jeunes, la jeunesse, les étudiants, puis les gens, les adultes, si je veux dire, de la communauté. C'est vraiment, je pense que c'est important. Puis là, oui, parce qu'on est une petite communauté, ces jeunes à travers les magasins, on les voit ici, là, puis les relations, la fraternité que ça a créé ici, je pense que c'est quelque chose qui doit continuer pour les années à venir, quand les programmes vont terminer ou qu'ils vont avoir autre chose.
Okay, and our last question, if you were to give any advice to Kennedy or myself or any teenager who is considering going into this field of work or going into drug prevention and helping youth, what would your advice be to help, not so much to help a career, but just to help youth and to make a difference in youth? What would your advice be?
Comme carrière ou comme... c'est d'être authentique, je pense. C'est la seule chose. C'est une... comme Kira mentionnait, on pense qu'on répond aux besoins des jeunes, puis on n'est pas sans même longueur d'onde du tout. Donc c'est vraiment d'être réaliste.
I think the biggest thing is just to get involved in as much as possible. If you are invited as a camp for strategy for replacement in university, so if you have the opportunity to volunteer somewhere new or meet a new network of people that maybe you wouldn't have met before or do a community placement or all those little opportunities, create a community around you that maybe would lead into a career in the future and provide you with different skills that you may not have had otherwise. Just continue trying to get involved in as much as possible and learning.
I think that's great.
Yep, that's all the questions we had. So thank you very much for answering the questions.
Okay, we'd like to invite any questions from the floor? The mic is open here, or we can bring the handheld mic, so feel free to use the wisdom here and in the room.
Je me demandais si vous voulez que je prenne le micro ou non. There you go. Je me demandais, je ne sais pas c'est quoi harm reduction en français, j'avoue, mais je me demandais si vous utilisez ça dans votre programme à l'école secondaire à enseigner aux élèves comment, pas nécessairement ne pas prendre de risques, mais comment réduire les risques et les façons les plus saines possibles d'utiliser de l'alcool ou des drogues ou n'importe quelle substance que ce soit.
Oui, nous, on appelle ça la réduction des effets. Harm reduction, c'est vraiment quand il a l'unité de santé, réduction des effets. Puis oui, il faut, on ne peut pas jouer avec la jeunesse, parce que c'est pas blanc ou noir avec eux. Je je consomme, mais je consomme un peu. J'ai 15 ans, oui, je vais boire ce soir. Alors, c'est vraiment de leur donner des outils. Puis, je pense que si vous avez vu sur certains, puis c'est eux qui ont créé les affiches qu'on a développées, la quantité que tu consommes est aussi importante que qu'est-ce que tu consommes. C'est eux qui nous disent, c'est ça qui est important pour eux. Alors, c'est avec ça qu'on travaille. Ça fait une grosse partie de notre travail, c'est la réalité.
Avez-vous des outils en français que vous pouvez partager sur ça? Ou?
Oui, tu peux absolument, oui. Ben, si tu vas sur les sites web, les bureaux de santé publique, on a, dépendant du programme qu'on lit, c'est spécifique au programme qu'on va lire. Ouais, si tu connais quelqu'un, je pourrais peut-être jaser.
One of the key values behind the drug strategy is to work from a harm reduction lens. So the way that plays out with our youth work is we really work hard to meet young people where they're at and I just about said the word enforce, but I really mean encourage the idea that drug use neither increases nor diminishes your value as a person, right? And so, like I said during my presentation, sometimes that's really hard, right? Because we want to walk that fine line between a harm reduction philosophy and meeting people where they're at and not attaching value to drug use, but also not promoting drug use. So the way that plays out with young people is difficult often, but what we try and do is really encourage a culture in whatever program we're running or whatever group we're facilitating that piece about being value neutral around drug use is present. And with our youth speakers panel, we really work hard acknowledging that young people are wherever they're at, and they have a story to tell about their change. We certainly don't insist that young people are completely abstinent. We don't use clean, unclean language. We just say, if you are in a place to talk about the change that has happened in your life and are willing to talk about that, then let's work on those skills. And some of our kids are still using, some aren't. Some are somewhere on the path to something different and are working hard at it. And we try our best to just continue to meet them where they're at and provide what we can along the way.
Thank you.
Melissa, someone turn on.
Oh, yeah.
Bonjour, mon nom c'est Francine Campo, je travaille pour Maison Fraternité. Maison Fraternité, c'est un organisme qui offre des services en toxicomanie pour les francophones en Ontario. On est ouvert, ça fait 20 ans. On a des programmes qui couvrent à peu près toutes les écoles de la ville d'Ottawa, francophones, catholiques, publiques. On a un programme de prévention qui roule à plein régime. On a un programme de jour pour la réduction des méfaits, puis un programme résidentiel pour les jeunes qui décident d'entreprendre l'abstinence. Ma question pour vous, c'est, mais en fait, on n'a pas de programme pour les plus jeunes. Donc, nos programmes de prévention visent vraiment les 7e, 8e, 9e années. C'est notre clientèle cible. Moi, j'aimerais savoir où viennent vos fonds pour vos programmes pour les 5e, 6e années. Et puis, pour vous, mesdames, j'aimerais savoir qu'est-ce que vous faites avec vos jeunes francophones de votre région, où vous les référez. Donc, à quels services ils ont accès.
That's a really great question. I'm not sure that I can say there's a lot of equality, but our treatment agency in town does have francophone treatment clinicians, so the young people can request a francophone clinician if necessary, or if that's their preference. But to be honest, there isn't a francophone specific program. She can't.
Maison Fraternité offre le service, c'est un service qui est provincial pour les filles et les garçons de 13 à 18 ans. Pour les garçons, le service existe déjà dans le nord de l'Ontario, mais pour les filles, Maison Fraternité est le seul programme francophone résidentiel dans toute l'Ontario. Donc, les filles ont accès à nos services, on se fait partout en province. On travaille beaucoup avec OPM. Pendant les traitements, les jeunes viennent dans nos services. On travaille avec les parents via OPM. On offre différents services. Et puis, c'est faisable parce qu'on a des jeunes qui viennent de partout présentement. Malheureusement, c'est ça, c'est que les gens ne connaissent pas encore très bien nos services. Donc, souvent, sont référés dans les services anglophones.
Right. No, that's That's a really good point. Sorry, I'm catching up with the translation as it happens. That's a really good point because as you were speaking, I wasn't sure what your service was. And I think what I'll do is go home and check with our treatment providers and see what kind of knowledge there is there. But it certainly is, like, I'm glad you reminded me of this because we certainly want to provide as much service as possible to specific populations where we can, so thank you.
Do you want to talk about funding for your 5 to 6?
Le financement pour le programme va dépendre du ministère de la correctionnelle, je veux dire. Donc, puis, nous, on a dans notre communauté de Richelieu, qui est le mandat de la jeunesse, accepté, il fournit, effectivement, il fournit 5 000 $ par année pour les prochains 5 ans pour le programme DEAR, spécifiquement le programme DEAR qui est les services policiers de 5e année. Le programme de soins anti-toxico, c'est un programme qui a été créé par le Bureau de santé publique, puis qui est adaptable. On l'a livré dans des camps pour les jeunes. Pour l'été, on a juste modifié les activités pour le langage des jeunes, puis ça a très bien fonctionné. Il est gratuit, on vous fournit le curriculum, vous allez dans le store, dans l'environnement, puis vous achetez tous les légumes pour mettre dans le seau, puis ça s'adapte. On les donne aux enseignants dans les classes de santé, dans les classes d'éducation physique. Il y a 20 minutes de programmation. On peut faire des activités à ce moment-là, donc on peut, en jouant, on peut livrer un message de prévention et d'éducation.
Le CIE de Richelieu d'Ottawa vient fournir les fonds pour bâtir le centre résidentiel. Donc,
puisqu'il n'y a personne à vous, j'ai une autre question. Comment est-ce que vous vous assurez de ne pas criminaliser les jeunes qui vous disent qu'ils consomment des substances ou de les mettre dans le trouble avec leur direction d'école ou avec leurs parents?
Et pour nous, ça n'a pas été une dispute en ce moment, donc je vais passer de...
Mais est-ce que vous avez un plan pour gérer ça?
moi, je peux répondre. Nous, on travaille avec les écoles. La façon dont ça fonctionne, c'est que la majorité de nos références viennent des directions d'école. Donc, habituellement, pour les jeunes, ce qui arrive, c'est que les directions vont demander qu'ils soient rencontrés par les employés de maison frère. À partir de ce moment-là, il n'y a pas nécessairement de conséquences à part, naturellement, la conséquence, disons, que le jeune emmené de la d'autres école, s'il est suspendu, il est suspendu. Mais à partir du moment où il rencontre un psychothérapeute de maison frère, il peut réintégrer la salle de classe. Puis là, il y a des suivis qui se font.
Ouais. Mais eux font pas de la thérapie, eux font des groupes dans une école. Fait que je comprends pour vous parce que je suis travailleuse sociale. Mais je suis pas sérieuse. J'essaie de comprendre pour ce programme-là qui se passe dans l'école puis qui est juste un programme devant tout le monde.
Comme c'est des lieux qui sont livrés par les pairs. Donc, si dans je pense que peut-être tu me donnes un exemple spécifique, mais si tu me dis là, en livrant le moche clip, le programme qu'un jeune dévoile qui consomme, c'est une discussion qui va en lieu. C'est pas une question où on va avertir les autorités.
OK. Fait qu'il n'y a pas d'adulte présent.
Oui, il y a un adulte présent.
Alors,
mais c'est
juste de comprendre la logistique. S'il y a un adulte présent et que ça se passe à l'intérieur d'une école,
de temps en temps,
il n'y a pas une responsabilité de l'adulte présent. Moi, je suis contente, si vous dites rien, c'est la solution pour moi qui est idéale, mais je me demande juste comment ça se passe. Moi, je sais que si moi, je veux livrer un programme à l'école secondaire à Kingston, je dois avoir, en tant qu'adulte, malheureusement, l'obligation de divulguer certaines informations. C'est pour ça que je réponds à en offrir un. C'est pour ça que je vous demande.
Non, je pense que nos jeunes savent qu'ils sont en sécurité. Évidemment, on a quand même une obligation professionnelle, là, mais on s'entend qu'un jeune qui dévoile qu'il a consommé, dans le contexte de la discussion, le sujet va être abordé. Mais on a sur notre comité, on a la travailleuse en toxicomanie présente. Ça va être abordé sur une base personnelle, mais je pense qu'à aucun temps on dit non, ça c'est on va dévoiler. On s'entend, comme je dis, qu'on a des responsabilités par rapport à l'information l'information qui est partagée chez les jeunes, mais ça a vraiment pas été en ce moment.
Thanks, Liz. That's a hard question to answer because I think that our intention is not to criminalize youth, right? Because we probably all nod our heads and agree that that's not helpful. So I think how we've gotten around that, specifically with the young people that we're talking to who are actively using and are engaged in our programs, is to work with our police partners and our community partners to better understand the intent behind the program and to make sure that we're all agreeing on the intent of the program. So for instance, our youth speakers who talk about their own substance use and some of their own experiences, we work with them to be able to tell their story in a safe way for them and a safe way for their audience. But we also work with our partners to really talk about the intent of this service and this program so that we don't have this stereotypical police officer waiting at the back of the room to arrest someone, right? Like, we're really fortunate in Peterborough where that's not the case. And we are, part of that 4-pillar partnership has really brought those partners together so we can discuss some of those issues, because in years past there's been a lot of fear that if I go to the needle exchange program and get some clean rigs and I come out the door, the police will be waiting there for me because they know why I'm there. And they'll, there's been a lot of that kind of natural fear, and it's a legitimate fear. But what we're doing in Peterborough is really working with our partners, both justice partners and community agencies, to ease that tension and to say, okay, if we're going to, as a drug strategy, get behind these kinds of programs, then we need to really prioritize not criminalizing youth and not waiting at the back of the room to speak to someone about what they've just talked about in a group or accessing certs or whatever. So that's how we're addressing it, and it's really just by relationship building and not by changing policy or anything like that. And we're lucky enough that our police partners are prioritizing that.
Thank you so much.
Are there other questions from the floor? Okay, well, it is my privilege to thank our panel today. In terms of the work that they do, for me, I always get goosebumps because substance use and youth in particular is definitely a passion of mine. And so hearing about the great work that's being done and hearing about the services that are available, I think for me, some of the key messaging is really helping us to understand the importance of being with youth where they're at. The process of engaging youth is really opening up that communication and really changing our adult perspective and being open to hearing a youth perspective. And it's going to be different, and different is okay. And I think that's a big challenge for a lot of adults doing this kind of work, is that we come with a preconceived, we've got to tell them what they have to do and what they can and cannot do. And with youth engagement, that is the exact opposite of how it should be approached. So thank you all for being here today. We do have to be clear that